Aloha, my name is Henrietta Dulai, and I'm an associate professor with the Department of Geology and Geophysics at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. The University of Hawaii Seagrant College Program, otherwise known as Hawai'i Seagrant, is based at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu, Hawaii. Hawai'i Seagrant supports an innovative program of research, education, and extension services directed to the improved understanding and stewardship of coastal and marine resources of the state, region, and nation. Hawai'i Seagrant Podcast number 4. Is it fresh or saltwater?
Aloha, and welcome to our 321 podcast. My name is Mahealani.
And this is Rachel.
This is Henrietta.
And I'm Trista.
And we are part of Hawai'i Seagrant and the University of Hawaii located in Honolulu, Hawaii.
This podcast features research supported by Hawai'i Seagrant. Each episode will highlight a new project and the people that make that project possible.
We will ask these researchers for 3 words that describe their research. Give them 2 minutes to explain how their research benefits communities here in Hawaii, and end by asking them to provide one thing they know about each other than their research. So, 3 words, 2 minutes, and 1 thing. It's a 321 podcast. All right, ladies, this happens to me. Just need to know if it happens to y'all. You're swimming right in the water. It's a nice sunny day and it feels good. It's nice and warm, and all of a sudden it gets really cold. And then it gets warm again.
So like a cold patch of water?
Yes, sometimes it can be refreshing, and other times it can just be cold.
Oh, I hate it when that happens. Why does that happen?
It could be a fresh patch of water.
Fresh water? Like from rain?
Well, sometimes the source of fresh water can be coming up from the ground as well.
Okay, so what are 3 words that describe your research?
Water cycle.
Sustainability. And gadgets.
Okay, so we're going to get to gadgets at the end because that's just awesome that you would say gadgets. It's so good. Okay, so you said water cycle, right, as one of your words. So why would you say water cycle?
Because we all humans and other living things, we depend on water, the availability of water.
And you said sustainability.
So a lot of our research looks at the amount of water that we can store on the island, as well as the quality of it.
And the last word that I am delighted that you used and excited to hear about is gadgets.
Yes, our gadgets range from highly sophisticated instruments that are quite pricey and are developed in other labs or factories. And the other end of the spectrum would be the stuff that we put together using duct tape and cable ties and pumps and spending many hours at Home Depot.
We're learning about water in this podcast, specifically groundwater, and how it affects the water makeup in coastal waters in Hawaii. Here to share their research are Dr. Henrietta Dulai and her graduate student, Trista McKenzie.
Before we ask how your research benefits communities here in Hawaii, let's talk about a few scientific words. 3 words that you use a lot in your research are groundwater, nutrients, and fluxes. Can you explain what these words mean?
So groundwater refers to any water that is flowing beneath our feet in the ground. So this is opposed to surface water or stream water. So when it rains, some of this water will go over land in the form of surface runoff, but then also a lot of this water will infiltrate into the ground. And that is what we refer to as groundwater.
So what about nutrients?
Well, nutrients are pretty much food that all living organisms need. And specifically, we are studying the coastal ocean and how much nutrient is there, because there is the optimal level that we all like. Once we start getting more of those nutrients, it's all out of balance. And groundwater, as it seeps from the land to the ocean, oftentimes messes up this balance in that it brings in too many nutrients into the coastal ocean.
Okay, so fluxes. It's not a very common word that you hear. So how would you define that word?
So when we have a stream or a groundwater spring that discharging to the ocean, we call that discharge. So how much water comes out of that particular part of the coastline per time. But then that water carries with it all these solutes like the nutrients and other or pollutants. And so the flux of the pollutants, therefore, will be whatever comes in with those springs or streams.
All right, so tell us in 2 minutes or less how your research benefits the communities here in Hawaii.
So we already started out explaining the water cycle and that there is this connectivity between groundwater and surface water bodies. So we study groundwater fluxes into streams and to the coastline, in that how this water flux is responsible for water quality. So how clean the water is, what's in the coastal zone.
We are looking at either chemicals or nutrients that are in the ground versus surface water. And this is part of a process called source tracking, where we can look at certain chemical signatures in the water and use those signatures to help determine where the pollutant sources may be coming from.
And specifically, I would like to use the example we are focusing on right now. Kahala'u Lagoon has been closed because of pollutants coming from yet unknown sources, unconfirmed sources. And the Department of Health posted signs that no one should enter the lagoon because there is high concentration of pathogens.
Let's recap. When asked to provide 3 words that describe your research, you said water cycle, sustainability, and gadgets. You provided definitions for 3 scientific words that are commonly used in your research. These words are groundwater, nutrients, and fluxes. We've learned about your research and how your research helps communities here in Hawaii. So let's get technical. How do you do your research?
So in a field day, we load our equipment on a truck along with a kayak or a wheelbarrow, depending on what setting we will be studying. We drive to the site, we unload everything from the truck and gear up either the kayak or the wheelbarrow. And that entails attaching water pumps, instruments that can measure conductivity, temperature, dissolved oxygen in the water, and then also a radon measurement instrument. And then we haul the kayak along the shoreline or push the wheelbarrow and continuously monitoring what kind of radon and salinity levels we can see.
So you push the instrument either through water or have it in the water, but you're actually towing it from land?
Yes. So for streams,
wow,
we have the wheelbarrow that we push through. And some of the study sites, for example, the Kahala'u Lagoon, because there are pathogens, part of the process is to actually suit into waders that are chest high, so and wear gloves, protective gloves. So
that's
we
very
protect
fashionable.
Ourselves. And comfortable in the hot day of walking for miles, hauling the instruments, sweating in waders and nitrile gloves.
People must give you very funny looks. Do you get weird looks when you're there?
We get weird looks, yes.
Are people concerned about the water after they see you guys walking around?
Most people have seen the signs, so they're generally just curious what we're finding. So once we do these initial surveys, we go back to the lab, we analyze our data, and we look at our GPS, and we put this all together, and we create maps. And these maps show us where we are finding these groundwater hotspots. So then we can go back into the field at a later date and just strictly sample these hotspots to see what's in it, such as nutrients or other chemicals that might be indicative of a source.
Well, then that's a wrap. But before we go, we do want to ask you, Henrietta, what is one thing you know about Trista other than her research?
I know that Trista is an avid surfer.
Even when you know there might be nasty stuff in the water?
I try not to think about it when I'm surfing.
Great. All right, well, Trista, what's one thing you know about Henrietta other than her research?
She enjoys running.
Running? Marathons?
I have done a few of those, but lately I don't really have time to train, so I just do shorter runs.
All right, well, stay tuned for our next podcast, and mahalo for listening. Aloha.
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 This Hawai'i Seagrant 321 podcast featured 3 songs: Happiness by bensound.com, Ukulele by bensound.com, and Cute by bensound.com. Find it on iTunes or bensound.com.